Hello, this is Conway Lynch presenting my Pechu Kucha, in which I'm going to share one strategy for each of the focus areas from the Educator Effectiveness Supporting Student Achievement and Growth course. Those areas are technology and ed, career readiness, research-based strategies, SEL, inclusion, cultural competence, and equity. To start, I want to discuss a little bit about my learners in the Reading School District. I have a very diverse classroom. I have newcomers who are brand new to the country, English learners, many ESL students, and multiple skill levels. I have gifted students and I have students who are receiving supports. So this matters a lot in planning, and using these strategies, such as technology and education, helps to, I think, increase buy-in and motivation, and there's access. All of my students have Chromebooks. It gives kids a lot of chances to engage, and they can be gamified like Blookit, or with ease of grading like CommonLit. I've found a lot of success with that. One of the strategies I wanted to talk more about was interactive choice boards. So I've made, and you could make, Google Slides with activities grouped by an ELA skill. In my case, I'm an ELA teacher. I use icons, sentence stems, and bilingual directions. And as you can see in this example, you could do something like learn by seeing, where students could watch a video, learn by hearing, listen to a audiobook, or learn by reading and writing, where students could just simply read and write the good old-fashioned way. Career readiness is the next thing I'd like to discuss. And for me, I want to connect ELA to real-world literacy skills. That means exposure to things. Content must be relevant, right? Okay. And it builds self-awareness. Early exposure builds purpose. So strategy for this would be career-focused writing. We could use job postings where kids could apply for these jobs. Writing professional bios and writing emails to teach formats. Just this past quarter, I had my students write professional emails, and I was honestly very impressed with how well the kids did, and I got to explain to whom it may concern, which was a great way to talk about being the object of a sentence. Audience-specific tone for the students is super important too, understanding who is reading this and why are they reading it. For research-based strategies, for me, the science of reading informs writing and comprehension. So syntax and fluency build deeper understanding across all curriculum. So I do a lot of work to try and help kids understand words that are big words, but I explain to my students who, like I said, are a lot, if not, it's 97%, I believe, in my district, are Spanish-speaking students. I tell them all the time, you guys have a leg up on the competition. You know the big words because they're Latin root words. Another thing I would say as a strategy could be sentence combining. So daily practice with mentor sentences that I can put up on the board, and then students will be able to combine them with other sentences from their journals, and this will help scaffold complexity and encourage revision since they'd be using sentences they already used before. The Marzano's 9, which was in one of the readings, there's a focus on similarity and differences. That's something that I think is super important in ELA and in all curricula, and cooperative learning, so students can read and give feedback to each other on their writing. Social emotional learning, or SEL. For me, it's nice. ELA themes naturally explore identity, empathy, conflict, so that's like woven together in my classroom, and writing supports reflection. In fact, that's what most of the writing I do in my classroom is. Daily journals and reflecting on maybe a character's trials, tribulations, and understanding how that could be applied to oneself. So like I said, with the journals, that's a great strategy with identity prompts. Prompts like, what's something only I understand about my culture? And this is a great way for you as the educator to also be able to read this and be like, now I have insight onto my students' culture, and this will come up later when we talk about cultural competence. And of course, this encourages fluency and self-expression. Inclusion is the next area I'd like to discuss briefly. Access isn't just placement, it is engagement. So inclusion means everyone in the classroom is actually engaged. Objectives are posted, expectations are posted. I have classroom jobs that I think really helps build classroom inclusion. Students feel like they belong there, and they feel like the classroom isn't Mr. Lynch's classroom, but it's their classroom, which is the way I think it really should be. So a strategy would be universal design for learning. This means literally everything. It is quite universal. So the way that you organize your classroom. I have my classroom set up in groups, but I also have like a quiet zone and a chill zone. And, there's minimal effort needed to get around the classroom, and it isn't confined or constrained. I think this helps. There's also supports around the room, be it posters. Everything is meant to be accessible and fair. And that means that there's also visual sentence frames, discussion stems posted all throughout the room and available to students in their folders. So I think there was one of the readings mentioned the 3 R's: respect, relationships, and responsibility. That's really what goes into inclusion in a classroom. So having respect for your students and respect for the space, building relationships with your students, and hopefully your students building relationships with each other, and of course the responsibility to a safe and effective learning environment. Cultural competence. So this is respect for the student identity within the curriculum, and it's critical to engagement and trust. Super critical to engagement with students. If you don't understand your students, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to want to listen to you. They will not identify with you. One of the readings had this, I really liked, the RACE, the race breakdown for cultural competence. First, recognizing your own bias. We all unfortunately have them. They are kind of baked in. It is a reality, and recognizing that is the first step. Admitting and acknowledging differences in treatment. So white people are treated differently from Black, brown, Asian, what have you. There are differences in race. It is a reality. Committing to being part of the change in that, and then educating yourself on cultural differences. This means, for me, understanding my students' culture, and they have a wide culture. You're not thinking just like, oh, well, they're Spanish speaking, all these kids are going to have a similar culture. I have students from all over the world. They just happen to speak Spanish, so there's a lot of cultural differences that it's important to understand. A strategy to help in being culturally responsive would be choosing texts that are relevant. So you can use diverse authors. In my case, I'm using Spanish speaking Hispanic authors. That could be paired poetry, short stories, nonfiction. This year we read the short story Amigo Brothers, which went over really well with my kids. I think given that it's multifaceted here. You have Spanish-speaking characters in the same age range, and they're boxers, which for some reason most of my kids got excited about. And then I wound up learning, oh, there's a boxing gym in town that a couple of my kids go to. And you can see how this opens doors to understanding and being more responsive in the future. The more you learn about your students, the better it'll be. It's really important to be patient and be vulnerable. You might make mistakes, but if you're being honest, the kids will know that you're trying to approach them with the best of intentions, right? Equity in the ELA classroom and in all classrooms, we've all seen this graphic. Fair does not necessarily mean equal, right? We need to give different students different supports. And that means we're addressing systemic gaps in literacy, which there are systemic gaps in literacy. For equity, I think it's important to model equity, meaning you're showing your students that it's okay to be different, that it's okay to need a little help, that it's okay to ask questions, that it's okay to be wrong. For me, I'm also setting high expectations for my students so that everyone in the classroom knows, look, I'm not going to let you do whatever you want just because maybe you are excelling here. You now need to go on to this pushing forward, right? Or maybe helping another student. And that's something that I think is important, is having students understand equity to the point where they can help engage in that and build that equity in the classroom. Another thing would be inclusive language, of course. So things as simple as like, oh, enjoy your summer break, thinking about the fact that, some of these kids might not be so thrilled to not be going to school. Simple things like addressing an appropriate language in the classroom, and that can be addressed with then a restorative circle. And one thing I engage with in the strategy here, my 20 seconds on this slide is certainly not right, is that I allow retakes and I allow lots of revisions. Oh my gosh, lots of revisions. So doing this, you're allowing a kid to learn, truly learn, and go up. Seems obvious to me, but I guess not. Not giving students the opportunity to retake is just like telling them you didn't learn it and you'll never learn it. This is backwards to me. You didn't learn it. What did I, the teacher, do wrong? How can I help you learn it? Let's retake it now that I've done that. And what do you know? They do better and they actually learn it. Strategy integration. So for all of these things, culturally responsive text, sentence combining, all of this I'm going to be doing in the journals, and I'm actually thinking about starting blogs, given that would be much more technology in the classroom, right? So I think instead of journals, which I've traditionally done, I'm thinking about having the kids build their own blogs, and then they can learn a little CSS, which could be cool, some HTML. Who knows? Web 4 might ruin that, but we'll see. Student voice is very important with all of this, all of it. So students should be given the chance to say, hey, this is helping, this is what I need. Surveys, I survey my kids often. Day one, I have a student survey to learn about them, learn about what their needs are, what their strengths are, perceived weaknesses, etc. And this really helps you as the educator reflect and teach pretty much directly to what those students need and what they're asking for. And then you can also have kids co-create prompts and rubrics. This helps build an understanding of the content. Because if you are building a rubric, we as teachers know, if you're making a rubric, you need to understand how this assignment works from top to bottom. Summary of strategies. So I'll just skip over this because I'm already over time. And final thought, just try it, right? Literacy is power, especially when it's inclusive, equitable, and relevant. All right, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.